Welcome in to the 48 Minutes podcast on Believe, presented by Bet Online. I'm Ross Geiger, the former NBA video coordinator, having spent time with the Bucks, Suns, and Knicks. And I'm joined alongside Bruce Bernstein, our four-time Emmy Award winner, who spent more than 3 decades at ESPN producing NBA shows, SportsCenter, and soaking up knowledge from the best hoop analysts in the business. And last but certainly not least, I'm also joined by the 2-time Emmy Award winner, Michael Worldby Freer, who is a senior writer at Stat Factor, specializing in writing advanced statistical NBA reports for various announcers across the league. This is episode number 111, and this is the Gilbert Arenas episode, as Agent Zero signed a 6-year, $111 million contract in 2007 with the Wizards after just playing 8 games in the prior season. To this day, that contract remains on the list of one of the worst NBA contracts of all time. As you might remember, the Javaris Crittenton incident in the locker room. Yeah, that one. But before we get any further, just a quick reminder. BetOnline is your number one source for all your sports betting needs this season. From baseball, golf, soccer, right up to all the top fights in UFC, MMA, and boxing. Every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Use promo code BLEAV, that is BLEAV, for your 50% free bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. Bet online. The game starts here. And tonight, fellas, lots of news to unpack here around the association as we had the draft and free agency. Let's go ahead and get started at the top here with the top of the free agent market, and that is the Philadelphia 76ers. They've been very active and impressive thus far, and the biggest being Paul George. They were able to secure a deal with Paul George, 4 years, $211 million. They also got Tyrese Maxey on an extension for 5 years. For $203 million. They re-signed Kelly Oubre and have a planned reunion with one of the greatest rebounders of all time, Andre Drummond, as you know I like to refer to him. So, Bruce, I'll start with you. Obviously, you've got the Sixers in the Eastern Conference. What are your thoughts on all the big spending that Philly's done thus far?
Well, PG-13, is going to get about $50 million a year. Maxey, I wasn't sure if it was 4 or 5 years, but he's either $40 or $50 million a year. I guess it's 5 years and 200. So that's
Yep.
4. So you got, $90 million a year tied up in those two guys. They're keeping Kelly Oubre Jr., who had a nice year for them at a bargain price, really. As you mentioned, Andre Drummond, who's some nice insurance for Joel Embiid, the often injured Joel Embiid. But of all those things that have made the Sixers better, I'm wondering, are the Sixers fans happiest about the fact that Tobias Harris is no longer on the team? I mean, he's going to Detroit. He's going to Detroit, which, be careful what you wish for, I suppose. But no, I would say that the Paul George move, I know World B isn't going to be happy to hear this. I think this nudges the Sixers a little bit ahead of the Knicks with that move. Although I still believe that Philly is going to be looking up at Boston, who's in pretty good shape themselves. But yeah, I mean, Philly, absolutely. I mean, great job out of them getting PG-13.
World B, what's your thoughts on the city of Beverly Love and what they've done so far this summer?
Well, it's hard to argue. I mean, PG-13 coming off playing, usually the oft-injured PG-13, but 74 games last year. It's his most that he played with in his 5 seasons with LA. So you can't really complain about that. He is 34, so there's some reservations there. But, he shot a career high from 3-point range, 41%. You combine that with Maxey and Embiid, it's really an impressive potential there. But, in Philly, they can put all the pieces they want, on there with Embiid. The season comes down to if Joel Embiid can be healthy.
Yeah. And
we just haven't seen him demonstrate that he has the ability through no fault of his own, not, blaming him or anything, but all this is great. But if he's not healthy, they're not contending with the Sixers or Celtics, excuse me. They're just not.
Gee, that sounds really familiar for Paul George, doesn't it? With his previous stop with Kawhi Leonard. If he's healthy, I mean, maybe they can contend, but
Absolutely.
that hasn't been the case. So I think the most interesting piece here with the Philly news and kind of all the cap space they've had to be creative here to obviously sign guys to extensions, re-sign guys like Kelly Oubre, and then bring in a guy the caliber of Paul George is the fact this was the first year Nick Nurse really had a chance to kind of add some pieces to his mix. And, you know, he is regarded as one of the most creative coaches out there. So really excited to see, you know, what he's going to do with this star-studded team, adding PG-13 and moving off a guy like Tobias Harris. That's
and by the way, they may not be done. They may not be done with, you know, free agency. Maybe they're done with, but they have pieces. A lot of draft picks coming their way from the Clippers thanks to the James Harden deal. So if they want to continue to add and take on somebody or whatever, they still have that ability.
Yeah, and definitely don't count out Daryl Morey when it comes to that.
Absolutely. He's the one who made the deal. He's got to reap something from all this.
You know, you mentioned, Ross, I believe, PG-13 having a good year shooting the three last season. And that was really an area that Philly needed a lot of help in. They only made about 12 of them a game last year, which is far closer to the bottom than it is to the top. So, again, you know, I know when you have Joel Embiid, you know, you're going to push the ball into the post a lot, although he is actually a pretty decent three-point shooter. But, yeah, I mean, you know, between the wing defense and PG's, you know, length and the ability to shoot threes, I mean, it's no wonder that he was the top guy out there. I mean, but again, he's 34 years old, okay? So, you know, you have to wonder when you give a guy a 4-year contract at the age of 34, I think you're really hoping you get 3 decent years out of him, and then you can move that contract in his final year and hopefully, you know, move, you know, money around to continue to replenish the team after he's gone.
Yeah, but I mean, if we're being honest here, you know, 3 good years out of Paul George is really what this franchise has left in Embiid, if you ask me, just given his injury status and health and just how big men age. I think if you don't go for it now, win. And so I think it was a smart deal to go with that. And the other thing I'm looking forward to with Paul George having a guy like Joel Embiid down low is that, you know, he's used to playing with a guy like Ivica Zubac, who I like Zubac for what he brings. But Embiid is going to take a lot of pressure off PG-13, and he's also a willing passer, and he's a pretty good one for being a star center. So looking forward to seeing that duo in the inside-out game along with Tyrese Maxey. Now, with Paul George off the board, let's shift gears here to the biggest free agent name still left on the market by technicality. That is LeBron James. He is an unrestricted free agent. And let's talk about the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, both D'Angelo Russell and Jackson Hayes have wisely opted into their respective contracts. And the Lakers did give Max Christie a big payday, 4 years, $32 million to stay put in a Lakers uniform. But the King has opted out of his deal and, you know, was reportedly willing to take a pay cut to help the Lakers add a significant piece. And then Klay Thompson comes off the board, who we'll talk about later. And now it sounds like LeBron wants the max again. So, World B, I'll start with you on this one. I mean, what's your thoughts on what's going on with the Lakers?
It's newsmakers for all the wrong reasons. The last 10 days. I mean, you know, they bring in JJ Redick, which was, as head coach, was one of the worst kept secrets out there. But they're bringing in a guy who has absolutely no coaching experience. Not that it can't work, but this is, you know, you're fielding a team. You're going there and trying to turn a team around that really is aging. Their best players are another year older. You want to get free agents to come in, and they've whiffed so far on every one. Yeah. And it's just this is the Lakers. I'm told this is like the Yankees of the NBA, along with the Celtics. You don't turn the Lakers down, and yet everybody seems to at every turn. It's just another in a series. You draft LeBron's son, and everybody another of the worst kept secrets in the world here. So it's just really all newsmakers, but for all the wrong reasons in LA. And at the end of the day, as Bruce was talking about before we went on, they're a play-in team at the best right now, just where they were before.
You know, I thought Jeannie Buss was the owner of the team, but it turns out that LeBron James is the owner of the team. Yeah. And I thought Rob Pelinka was the general manager of the team, but it turns out that LeBron James is the general manager of the team because he made them draft his son, who nobody else had any interest in. Okay. He's playing games with what he's saying he'll accept for pay next season. He said he would take a pay cut for a really high impact guy if they could get him. But apparently he meant Klay Thompson. And since Klay Thompson's not there, now general manager LeBron is deciding that, superstar LeBron is going to make the max instead of something less than the max to help the team get better. There's all kinds of cool drama there. I mean, D'Angelo Russell, he's staying put for now, okay? They tried to trade him at the deadline last year. There weren't any takers. He opted in for $18.7 million for next season, and he said, I'm going to stay in L.A. It's like, you know what? I don't know if general manager / GM LeBron James, Rob Pelinka is on board with that either, because I think there's still a good chance they're going to trade him if they could get a taker at that price. I don't know that there's going to be too many. So, yeah, I mean, and I forgot that general manager / owner LeBron hired his podcast buddy to be the head coach. So really, if this is not team dysfunction waiting to happen, then I'm not really sure what is.
Yeah, I gotta tell you though, the whole thing really puts a damper on the Lakers' chances to repeat as in-season tournament champions at this point. They can't be considered a favorite at this point.
Well, they got the first banner, and I think that's all LeBron cares about. We won the first tournament, so they got that going for them. But I gotta say, they're making our jobs pretty easy as podcast hosts here. I mean, we're gonna have plenty of entertainment to talk about with the Los Angeles Lakers throughout this season. So I am grateful for that. Now, let's go ahead and stick in the City of Angels here and talk about the Los Angeles Clippers, as the Beard, a.k.a. James Harden, will remain a Clipper, inking a 2-year, $70 million deal. And the Clippers also surprisingly scooped up Derrick Jones Jr., who I was surprised to see leave Dallas. He got 3 years, $30 million. And they secured a reunion with Nicholas Batum, getting him from Philly. And then also, in a very weird move, they went out and got Kevin Porter Jr., who obviously had a lot of off-the-court issues. The talent has never been the question marks there, but to bring that guy into your franchise is quite concerning. I don't think there was much of a market there for him. So just a very interesting offseason. Bruce, I'll start with you, and I'm kind of going back to Paul George a bit, but I know that you mentioned the concerns with his age, but given the fact they're moving to a new arena, they're trying to stay competitive, are you surprised Steve Ballmer just didn't give Paul George that fourth year? And what's really the strategy here, letting a guy like that walk and then adding a guy like Kevin Porter Jr., like that's going to just, clear things up on their end? They're still just as well off as they were before.
It's a head scratcher because, look, we've always said, and the pundits have said, if there's one owner who doesn't care about, going over the tax, threshold to keep talent, it is Steve Ballmer. The whole Derrick Jones Jr. thing is a little bit kind of weird because apparently he switched agents. He dumped his agent and went with Rich Paul. And I guess what happens when you switch agents, the new agent cannot negotiate on your behalf for 15 days. And because of the timing, the Clippers, the Mavericks figure we don't want to wait 15 days to settle that situation. So they decided, all right, we got to move on from this guy. And they ended up getting Najee Marshall, who I think is a nice player and will do well there. But yeah, the Clippers, Russell Westbrook picked up his $4 million option to stay. So he'll be coming back. That gives them a little stability. The Kevin Porter thing is a total head scratcher. I just don't get it. The only thing I can say is that he's got a lot to prove this season. And if in fact the counseling and the treatment that he got as a result of the things that got him suspended last year, if he truly has, gotten away from it for a year and has, his head screwed on straight, that could be an under the radar, nice move for those guys. But, James Harden, gets 2 years for $70 million. DJJ, nice player. He's no Paul George. I see these guys, taking a step backwards next year. I don't see any other way to look at them, World B.
No, I mean, we talk about the drama in Lakerland, and it doesn't lose any steam if you want to switch over and talk about the Clippers. It's trying to secure the back page headlines for all the wrong reasons again. You're basically, as you mentioned, Ross, you're opening a new arena, and you're opening an arena, and your selling points are the oft-injured Kawhi Leonard, a past his prime James Harden, Russell Westbrook, who's past his prime, and this is what you got. And you've gone from a team that we thought was going to compete for an NBA title last season to a team that's going to compete with the Lakers for the play-in. That's what it's looking like at this point, because the West on paper right now doesn't look as dominating as it was a year ago at the start. But there's a lot of teams that didn't, near the bottom or whatever, they're on their way up and going to make this a really difficult conference. And the Clippers and Lakers are not doing themselves any favors if they're trying to compete for titles.
No, they really aren't. And I just want to add one more thing here. Not only did they sign Kevin Porter Jr. this summer, but you may remember last year they were the team that signed Josh Primo, who was let go by the San Antonio Spurs due to some incidents off the court as well. So just very odd to see, Lawrence Frank is in that front office and obviously has a huge say there. Just weird to see like a former head coach, one that I actually did like as a coach, making decisions like this and giving Ty Lue some of these head scratchers as far as character is concerned, and putting together a team that they think can just compete off talent alone. I think chemistry is big, and you would think a coach like that would make some better decisions in the front office. But what do I know? We'll see what they do once they open up that new arena. Well, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break here. And when we come back, we're going to discuss what I think is my favorite free agent signing so far. And we're back. And let's talk about one of the sneaky and best free agent signings, at least in my opinion. I want to get your guys' thoughts here. But the San Antonio Spurs reaching a 1-year, $11 million deal with Chris Paul. I can't wait to see the pairing with Wemby. I think it's going to be a great 1-year experience there. And with that $11 million being expiring money, they could even move off Chris Paul come deadline and get some valuable things in return. But as far as I can tell, Chris Paul is going to be the starting point guard. He's going to get a chance to show what he can do playing starters minutes. Obviously paired with Wemby, that should be a lot of fun. Bruce, I'll start with you. What were your thoughts when you saw Chris Paul elected to go with a developing team rather than a contender?
Well, that's the whole thing. I mean, Chris Paul's resume is really complete, except for the fact that he's never won a championship. And, does anybody think that he's going to win a championship in San Antonio next year? I mean, I think their upside is the play-in tournament next year. And if they were able to do that, I think that would be a nice step forward for them. But here's the thing. What you said about him kind of helping to develop Victor Wembanyama is absolutely true. And I also feel that the other guy that he's going to really have a great effect on is their draft pick, Stephon Castle from Connecticut, who's going to be playing opposite him at the 2 guard if he starts. Castle's a beast, man. I mean, that guy's 19 years old. He's going to be good. So if CP3 can teach him some of the tricks of the trade and help him develop, I think we could be looking at a second consecutive Rookie of the Year coming out of San Antonio.
Will be?
Yeah, I mean, since it's obvious that Chris Paul's given up his pursuit of a title at this point, if you're not going to go to a team with a chance to contend, this is a really good spot for him. And it's a good spot for Wembanyama because, if he stays healthy, he looks like the kind of player that can take a meteoric rise from a great rookie season to another level, all-star, all-NBA caliber level in year 2. And having Chris Paul around to help him out can only enhance that. I worry about, how many games you're going to get out of Chris Paul at this stage of his career. If you get half a season, maybe you feel like that's a win, and maybe that's their plan. I don't know, but it certainly isn't a bad move for the Spurs at all. And for Chris Paul, like I said, if you're going to give up a chance to win a title at this stage of your career, you've resigned that you're not going to win, then go to a situation like this and be around the guy and be able to watch Victor Wembanyama for a year and enjoy that. This also reminds me a lot of when the Hornets got Tony Parker at the end of his career for one more year. Parker had a came off the bench for most of that season and had a really big impact on that team. It was very successful in that one season before he retired. This reminds me of that a lot.
I think the one thing that's definitely not up for argument as far as one of the best duos as far as smartest coach and smartest coach on the floor. I think the Spurs got every team beat in the NBA between Chris Paul and Greg Popovich. That should be a fun pairing to see them team up and try to help develop these guys on and off the court with their superb leadership there. So let's go ahead and stay in Texas. And we're going to move on over to the Dallas Mavericks, who, of course, just reached the NBA Finals. And we had talked all finals long. I mean, this team was missing a shooter, and they were missing a third missing piece. There was no one that stepped up to be that third guy. Well, they got that guy here as of taping Monday, and that is Klay Thompson of the Golden State Warriors. And, Bruce, my question to you, will it work? Is he going to be that third missing piece? Does he still have enough left in the tank to do what's going to be required and asked of him in that Mavericks offense, or do you see this being a bust?
See, here's the thing about that one that's giving me pause. What is his role going to be on that team? You have this backcourt of Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, the closers, but Klay Thompson, as far as I can tell, is also a guard. So is he now going to have to play some three?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, because, all right, so you think he'll start at the three for those guys?
Yeah.
Okay. Did he play a lot of three in Golden State? I don't really remember him doing it that much.
Well, they used to have that death lineup that they throw out there, so everybody was about taller than 6'7" or 6'8". So I'm sure there was a lot of people playing out of positions at that point. Okay,
so they get Klay. They bring in Najee Marshall, who we all kind of like that guy. I mean, he's a nice player. And, Derek Jones Jr. is gone. So, Najee, I guess, kind of cancels him out a little bit. They got the young bigs. So, look, I mean, if you want to bring a guy in who's got a winning tradition and has been on winning teams pretty much his whole career, and you have and I think Klay Thompson is a very positive force on any team, from a chemistry perspective. So it's good. As long as they have in mind the right role for him, I don't see how it doesn't help those guys.
And Will B, you were one of the highest, definitely the highest among us on the Dallas Mavericks last year. What do you see one of the Splash Bros and Klay Thompson adding to the Mavericks lineup?
Well, the thing about Dallas is they had a lousy perimeter shooting NBA Finals run there. They shot like 32% or so from three-point range. And for the season, I've mentioned this before, only the Celtics took a higher percentage of their shots from the field from three-point range than the Mavericks. 44% of their field goal attempts came from three. Well, here you got Klay Thompson, who is, let's call it, he is nothing. He's just a spot-up jump shooter from this point. He's a three-point specialist at this point of his career. You're paying for three-point specialists with that salary because 61% of his shots last season were threes. Ever since he came back from his injuries with the Golden State in the 3 seasons, it's been 50%, 55%, and then 61%. This is what he is at this point of his career. He's a standout in three-point range and shoot it. The good news is that's what Dallas probably wants out of him because that's their offense. They take a lot of threes. So he helps them in that standpoint. If you ask him to do more, I don't know what you're going to get out of him at that point.
And with Dallas taking over a big contract from the Golden State Warriors and a big name player, Mavericks fans are certainly hoping this isn't the second coming of Harrison Barnes. I'm not sure if you guys remember that, but Barnes came over from Golden State about a decade prior at this point and didn't really pan out too well. So they're hoping for a better chance here with Klay Thompson this go around. Now let's go ahead and shift our attention here to World Beast New York Knicks as they went ahead and completed the Villanova Brass. All the best friends are together there in New York. And boy, did it come at a cost, though. New York gave up an unprotected first-round pick in 2025, 27, 29, 31, an unprotected pick swap in 28, a top 4 protected first-round pick in 25 from the Milwaukee Bucks, a 2025 second-round pick, and Bojan Bogdanovic. So, World B, I'm out of breath. I'll give you the first crack at reacting to this trade. Are you excited about it, or do you think the Knicks gave up too much?
No, I'm definitely excited about it. They need to, show that they're contending, and I think they have it in them right now to contend. They were missing Julius Randle after January, so there's another one. They went and signed OG and Anunoby, so they have a really good core. And then you throw in Josh Hart and Dante DiVincenzo, who ended up playing starters minutes out of necessity. They go back to the benches where they were supposed to be, along with Deuce McBride, who looked like a player. No, I think they're put themselves in a good position. Losing Hartenstein to OKC is a downer, but you could see it coming based on the way the salary structures were. But I think this puts them, and you mentioned all the draft picks they lost, they still have a plethora of picks coming down the road, the Knicks do. So they're not, the cupboard's not bare there. They did give up a lot of picks, but they didn't give them all up. But I think this puts them, in my opinion, right there just behind the Celtics in contention in the East. They have that much talent, and it's not youth talent like OKC, but it's not old either. They have a good run in store for them if these guys pan out.
All right, Bruce. Question to you is, do you see the Knicks as a threat now with Mikal Bridges on board to your Celtics?
No, I don't really see them as a threat to the Celtics. I see them as an improved team, but Boston finished 14 games in front of them last year. I mean, is Mikal Bridges worth 14 wins? Because the Hartenstein loss is going to be felt in New York. I mean, I thought in the Indiana series, they don't win that series without Isaiah Hartenstein. I mean, he was a beast in the middle. He did a great job getting them second chances to get, buckets after missed shots, whatever. And, just a live big body. And with Mitchell Robinson's health always kind of a bit of a question mark. And now that Andre Drummond is off the market, I think the Knicks really do need to find somebody that can play some center for them. And I'm not exactly sure who they're in a position to go after at this point, but they definitely need something. My other concern there is, with Bridges, can Bridges, OG, and Randall all play together? I mean, I guess that makes one of them, that probably makes Bridges like a two guard, right? I mean, I know he can play both positions. Will he be comfortable as a two guard? I mean, probably. He strikes me as a guy that, is just a hard-nosed guy who's going to go out there and play defense, and he's going to do, the little intangible things. So I like them. I think their bench is really solid. Okay. And look, they did give up a ton for the guy, but, that's what you have to do. I mean, when you want to get top shelf talent, that's why you stockpile picks like that, so that you can use them that way, because nobody's going to draft all those guys and they're going to play meaningful roles. So bunch them up together and push your chips to the middle of the table. Go get Mikal Bridges. So I would say the Knicks are better. I don't see them as a threat to Boston. I think Philly, like I said earlier, might still be a tick above them. But you know what? I mean, those are the second and third best teams in the East, as far as I can tell.
And the best matchup I see in New York right now is definitely not between the Brooklyn Nets and the New York Knicks going forward. It's going to be Mikal Bridges' consecutive game streak versus Tom Thibodeau's minutes played. So that's going to be the matchup moving forward in the Big Apple. It's just seeing how, if Mikal can stay healthy enough to play 42 minutes a night.
That's so overblown. That's so overblown, the Tibbs thing. It really is. It's an overrated thing with the Knicks. They played a lot of minutes last season because they had to. They had nobody else. So you get everybody healthy and keep them healthy, the minutes will be just fine.
I got to see it to believe it, but I still
were all these guys hurt because Tibbs played them too much? I mean,
we'll see. We'll see.
That's still the most
Tibbs
interesting
going to be on the hot seat a little bit now with all this?
What's that? What's that, Bruce?
It is.
Bruce, is he asked if you think Tibbs is on a hot seat now with the pressure of adding Bridges? I think
on the surface, I say no, but a 7 seed in the East would certainly not help his cause.
Yeah,
and Jay Wright could be right down the road.
What happens when Josh Hart complains about his minutes, which isn't going to happen? I know he's not going to happen.
Lack of at this point. That'd be the only thing at this point. He didn't mind when he got to play all those minutes. Now if he gets it cut down to 28, now he's going to be upset.
Oh, let's not forget the big guy complaining last year was your big guy, and Mitchell Robinson, who wanted more touches. I don't know how many more touches he's going to get now, but he's going to have to play a role for you, World B, with Hartenstein out of town.
Well, let's just get half a season out of him first, and we'll deal with the rest later.
Fair enough. Well, World B, we're going to shift from one of your favorite teams to the next here and talk about your Orlando Magic with Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. He got a bag from Orlando. 3 years, $66 million. We had talked about the rumors of the Magic trying to pay to add some shooting. They definitely paid to get one, and they got a great one. And Caldwell-Pope coming over from the Denver Nuggets. So I'd like to talk about this one on two fronts, but let's go ahead and start by discussing KCP's impact moving forward with Orlando, World B.
I think it can only be positive. It's a definite upgrade at the two-guard position from what they had in Gary Harris and so not that he was bad, he wasn't healthy and he was kind of inconsistent with his jumper. They need perimeter shooting. They were bottom 5 in 3-point shooting last season. They had so many positive things going for them. This was one of their big problems. So he definitely addresses that. He's a good defensive player. So he's got the championship pedigree with 2 titles under his belt there. So he's got that going for him. This, to me, it only really makes his team better. I mean, you're talking about a team that was a 5 seed by basically the same record as Cleveland, who was a 4 seed last season. And I think this only makes them better. So you got to compete. They had the cap space. I think they did a good job.
Bruce?
Orlando and Detroit were tied for last in the league in fewest 3-pointers made last season at 11 per game. Okay. I think Detroit's percentage was a little bit lower. So technically they were probably the worst 3-point shooting team, but Orlando was 29th. KCP has shown that he can make some shots from outside. He's, as you mentioned, he's got a pedigree. He's played with LeBron James and Nikola Jokic, okay, 2 of the all-time greats of this game. So you have to think that his influence on a young team, simply by showing up and saying, well, when I played with Joker, we did this. I think guys like, Banchero and the Wagner brothers will listen to that. And I think, look, he's got a good story to tell these guys. And I think having a veteran guy like that who's won is exactly the kind of guy Orlando needed. And I say bravo. That's a good pickup for them. And it definitely helps them hopefully get to that next step.
Well said there, Bruce. I would echo that thought 100% there. Now, the second part of my question, Bruce, is the fact that for the second straight year, the Denver Nuggets have allowed a key role piece to walk. And last year it was Bruce Brown. This year it's KCP. So in your eyes, should Nuggets fans be concerned?
I think they should, because that team has had some injury issues and potential injury issues. Look, Jamal Murray, we know, missed a bunch of games. Michael Porter Jr. has maintained his health pretty well, but you always walk on eggshells a little bit with that guy because you just, in the back of your mind, it's got to linger like, gee, can he continue to stay healthy? We know he's had some significant back problems over the years. So, Joker is Joker. He's going to give you, the everything that he always gives you. But yes, I mean, they're going to have to rely more on a guy like Christian Brown. They're going to have to get, more, MPJ is going to have to give him more. I would be a little bit concerned if I were Denver. Yeah. I mean, last year, Bruce Brown, this year, KCP, he guys on a championship team.
For sure. World B, your thoughts on the second straight year of losing a big-time piece as far as the rotation is concerned?
Yeah, I look at it 2 different ways here. On the one hand, you're breaking up a starting unit that over the last 2 seasons played more minutes together than any other starting unit in Denver with that starting line. He was, KCP was the 2-guard in that lineup. So you're breaking something up that was highly successful. On the other hand, as much as they played together, the offense still, at the end of the day, revolved around Joker more than anybody else in the league. The difference when he's on the court and he's off the court is tremendous. So is it a case where we can just plug somebody in, and as long as Joker is healthy and doing his thing, we're going to be fine? That's what Denver probably is hoping. And there's some validity to that, I think, to feel that way. But yeah, you're concerned. It's 2 years in a row you've lost a key member, and you better hope that some of these other guys develop the way you think they are. If they have, yeah, they shouldn't be that big of a deal. But you're breaking up a cohesive unit that led you to a championship 2 seasons ago. That's something to be concerned about. Yes.
And speaking of concerns for the Denver Nuggets, the Minnesota Timberwolves, in my opinion, had a really successful draft night, trading up to get the 8th pick for Rob Dillingham, who can be mentored by Mike Conley. They got Terrence Shannon Jr. In the second round, who is one of the most NBA-ready prospects in this year's draft. And then shifting gears here real quick that I want to pick your brain on before we hit break, Oklahoma City Thunder, they traded their odd man out as far as Josh Giddey is concerned for an extension-eligible guy for that team, kind of the misfit of the talent that they had of that young nucleus. And, they just happened to get Alex Caruso, who is one of the better perimeter defenders in the league. And then Hartenstein, as you had mentioned earlier there, Bruce. So what's your thoughts on the Thunder here? I mean, they got 2 key pieces filling some major holes.
I think they're the clear favorite to come out of the West next year. All due respect to Minnesota and the others, Hartenstein fills a huge void for them. I mean, they were 27th in rebounding last year, and we said all year long, are they going to get a big at the trade deadline? Are they going to shore up their rebounding? What are they going to do? And in the playoffs, their rebounding, cost them. It really did. So Hartenstein, gives them a presence in the middle. Not only is he a good rebounder, but he's also very good at tipping the ball, keeping it alive, getting it to teammates, giving them second chance points. The Alex Caruso pickup is a great pickup, okay? And also, with Isaiah Hartenstein, the Thunder now lead the league in Isaiahs because they re-signed Isaiah Joe, and also Aaron Wiggins is going to be staying. So all signs point north for OKC. I definitely going to pick them to come out of the West next year.
Will be.
Do they also? Do the Thunder also lead the league in Jalen Williams too? Are they still at the top?
Yeah,
in that department
they do.
Yeah.
I mean, they're having one of the great off seasons here. It turns out. I agree with Bruce. I don't see how you would think any other team in the West would be favorites besides OKC. These are 2. They address 2 definite needs. I've mentioned this before. You guys are bored with it, but I'll say it again. Only 2 teams in the league were top 5 in offensive and defensive efficiency. One won the NBA title, and the other one's in Oklahoma City. So, and now you just added a key defensive player in Alex Caruso. Your rebounding was awful last season, as Bruce mentioned. You go out and get a big guy in the middle, one of the best big guys you could probably get to work within your offense, athletic enough to work within your offensive system. It's a win-win for both of them, and their best guys are still, SGA and Chet Holmgren still pretty young, so there's nowhere to go but up for this team, and they are absolutely the favorites in the West, heading into the season with everything as it is right now.
Yeah, and I'm real curious to see if we'll see some Twin Towers action down low in spurts between Chet Holmgren playing some 4 and Isaiah Hartenstein at the 5. You probably have to go. You probably have to
would want to see that.
You probably have to go zone defensively, just with like 5-out sets that a lot of NBA offenses run. But that's going to create problems too, having those 2 out on the floor together. So stay tuned for that. Well, we're going to take our last break here of the night and come back to you with our final segments and final thoughts. And we're back here. And Bruce, we've had a lot of news out of Boston with the Celtics, not just championship related, but some more shocking news. The Boston Celtics are suddenly potentially up for sale. Kind of odd timing with the fact that they just handed out 2 well-deserved contracts, big paydays to Derek White. And, of course, Jason Tatum now holds the record as the NBA's highest player. So what are your thoughts on this news, Bruce? I mean, I was a bit shocked myself.
Well, before we get started, I want to, for those of you who watch this on my YouTube channel, little show and tell. My good buddy Rob Peterson, who's one of the NBA editors for The Athletic, showed up at my house the other day with some confetti from Game 5 at the TD Garden. So I wanted, do a little bit of show and tell before I answer that question. Rob Peterson, you're the man. Thank you so much. I will treasure this always.
Very cool.
Wyc Grousbeck and Steve Pagliuca. This is such a cool situation they put themselves in. Here's why. They are passing out the money like nobody's business right now. They paid Derek White. They paid Jason Tatum. They paid Drew Holiday. Last year, they paid Jaylen Brown. They'll probably be paying some other people. And they're going to sell the team for probably somewhere in the neighborhood of close to $5 billion based on what Phoenix went for last year. So Wyc Grousbeck, Steve Pagliuca, congratulations. They bought the team in 2002 for $360 million. And, they're going to reap like more than 1,000% profit over that when they sell it. It's an iconic franchise, 18 championships. To sell it at this time and know that you can make everybody happy, give them all the money, and it's not going to be your problem because you will sell that team. You're not going to have to figure out the finances in 4 years. You're going to maybe get a chance at winning another 1 or 2 championships with this group. You're going to sail off in the sunset with all your money. And all I can say is that, bravo. Those two must be about the smartest guys around.
Will be any thoughts to add there on all the Celtics buzz going around?
Well, the sale aside, I'm really trying to figure out. I don't know where does this all fit into the cap space? Are they just blowing? Are they going above the second April? Or have they just decided we're just going to pay every tax dollar on dollar? I don't know what the money that they're doling out is astronomical, and I'm just wondering how they can, where they find all the money, where and stay within the confines of the cap system. I don't know the ins and outs of that, but it's just probably because it's happening too fast for me to keep track. It's, Derek White gets paid, and an hour later it's Jason Tatum. It's unbelievable how they gotten all this done. And at the end of the day, they are setting themselves apart for a potential, if they're healthy, a great run of titles.
And here's the thing. I mean, it's not, the TV money is going to go up a lot. I don't know how that affects the salary cap, but you know what? If you're getting like so much more money and, you have a group in place that you think could compete for multiple championships, and, in some ways you're going to be like a lame duck owner. You're writing all the checks, but somebody else is going to have to pay them. But you will keep that team together. That's why I say Wyc Grousbeck. I mean, it's like the cat that swallowed the canary today, because they will sell that team and they will get top dollar for it because, is there a better franchise that's positioned to continue winning in the future right now? I mean, I don't think so.
No. I mean, sell high. That's what they say in business, right? So they'd be doing just that. And I don't think they have to worry about selling tickets next year. I know Luke Cornett definitely puts butts in seats, so we'll have to keep it.
And they had money to sign Luke Cornett. Where are they finding all this money? Come on.
Xavier Tillman got 2 for $10.
Xavier Tillman.
They did have to part with O'Shea Brissett, though, which is a huge loss for the team. So, but hopefully Tillman can fill some of those minutes.
Is my man Joe getting a raise? Is he going to get a raise now? He almost got fired in the middle of the playoffs last season. Is he at least going to get a raise for winning the title in year 2? Is he going to they're going to take care of him too?
I think they probably will.
Good. That's the only reason I really care about the Celtics at this point. I really don't care how much Jason Tatum gets and Derek White or Cornette. My man Joe get paid.
Well, last I checked, Joe's got to take care of that knee before he worries about his contract. I mean, that news after the finals was pretty wild itself, that he tore his knee up. So hopefully he can be healthy and ready to go by next season. Now, as for our final thoughts here, I thought we could each pick a winner and loser so far this offseason. We'll both pick one of each, and let's go ahead and start off with your winner, World B.
It's going to sound like a homer, but I think the Knicks have been big time winners in this offseason so far. They solidified their core group. They solidified the reserves. They put themselves in position, in my opinion, to be the biggest contender to the Celtics in the East. Now, can they beat them? Who knows? But that's my winner.
All right, Bruce.
Before I give you my winner, can I take a gratuitous cheap shot at a team?
Sure, go for it.
For years, the Washington Wizards have played like a JV team, and now they finally got JV. Jonas Valanciunas is on their team.
Nice.
So the JVs have signed JV.
He kind of looks like a wizard. If he kind of looks like a wizard too. So I think it's a perfect fit.
Is that a compliment or
they're still going to be awful? Anyway, my biggest winner is OKC. I mean, the Caruso was a big move. Hartenstein was a bigger move. So to me, they're my big winners.
All right. And I'm going to go back to the start of the show here and take the Philadelphia 76ers. They got the diamond of this free agency and Paul George. They went ahead and got Andre Drummond, who you guys know I'm a fan of with his rebounding abilities and someone who certainly could help out Joel Embiid in the time that he needs to get a breather or take a game off. And I like their draft pick too, McCain out of Duke. I think he could be a real solid contributor in the future to that team. And they also re-signed Tyrese Maxey. So that's my winner. All right.
Hey, Ross, real quick. If they hadn't signed Andre Drummond, would they still be your winners in this free agency?
That kind of move. I was on the fence, and that really pushed me over.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm just checking.
Yeah, no, that paid some dividends for them in my book. Okay. Bruce, how about you start us off with your loser?
I kind of have a tie. The Clippers are definitely a big loser in this offseason, but I think the Warriors are a loser too. They lose Klay Thompson, one of their, core three for the dynasty. They waived CP3. Okay. Yes, they picked up D'Anthony Melton, but I can still see, I said this during the season, that I thought Draymond Green might be done with the Warriors. And I could still see Draymond Green. And I think it's more likely that he'll move on now that Klay Thompson is gone, because now it's like that first piece is, chipped away. I think, Draymond has value on the trade market. Golden State's not winning anything next year with this team. That's a very tradable piece. And I think, if they do lose Draymond on top of Klay, I would say that they're my biggest loser.
All right. World B?
For me, it's the Lakers. It's just down the road, I guess. They got JJ Redick as coach, but they whiffed on Danny Hurley. They got turned down by Hurley, who decided to go out to college. They wanted Klay Thompson. They lost on Klay Thompson. Oh, by the way, Klay Thompson chooses Kyrie over LeBron James. Let that sink in a little bit.
Yeah.
They're just – it's become a situation – and they're a play-in team. They're a situation where they're whiffing on every free – it's not a destination place, and that's really a sad state of affairs for the Lakers at this stage.
As for my loser, I'm going with the Chicago Bulls. They took the odd man out in Josh Giddey, giving up one of the best perimeter defenders that any contender would want, and they didn't even get a draft pick back for him. Speaking of draft picks, they could have traded Andre Drummond to the Sixers at last year's deadline for a couple second-round picks, but they elected to keep Drummond, got nothing for him, and he goes and signs with the Sixers anyway. So that's a big loss. They've been trying to trade Levine. Nobody wants him. I think they even offered to take Chris Paul and Andrew Wiggins back, and the Warriors said no to that. And to make matters worse, they went out and signed Patrick Williams for $90 million, 5 years. I don't know what that guy's shown in the league, and I'm typically a guy that likes younger players. I'll take it. I'll still be talking about Scoot Henderson, even if he has a poor year next year. Patrick Williams hasn't done anything, so to give him 5 years, $90 million was just a complete joke. I don't know what that franchise is doing, and I wouldn't be surprised to see DeRozan give him the peace sign and get the heck out of town. So we'll have to stay tuned there. But the Bulls have been a joke so far this offseason. But with that, this has been a fun edition of the 48 Minutes podcast on Believe, presented by Bet Online. We thank you for tuning in, and we'll be back with you next week to be sure you're up to date in 48 on all things around the association. Take care, everyone.